Welcome to the Business Communication Center's tutorial on resume format, establishing your brand. This tutorial will cover some brand do's and don'ts, objectives and summaries on your resume, and we'll review just a few other platforms where your brand is going to need to be consistent. So let's begin by just referring you to the Career Management Center's template for resumes. It's plain, but it is applicant tracking system friendly. If you have not viewed our tutorial on applicant tracking systems and how they are the first readers of your resume, please visit our website at bcc.utdallas.edu and look up the tutorial for surviving applicant tracking systems. So this begins your brand. It's your contact information. It should have your name, which should be a few points larger in size than all of the rest of the text on your resume, and maybe 3 to 5 points. But all of the rest of the text should be 11 points. You'll see that on the template. It's set for you. Includes your city, state, and zip code. There are some employers who will search. They'll do a pre-sort and search only for resumes within certain zip codes. So this is going to be important for you, especially if you are applying for a job in the area in which you live. For your phone number, make sure that you format it as shown as in this example, with parentheses and a hyphen between the numbers to make it easy to read. You do want it to be easy for the employer to contact you. For your email, make sure it's a professional sounding email, no hot stuff at hotmail.com. And on your LinkedIn, for that URL, you want to make sure that you personalize it. That means it doesn't have a lot of numbers and letters at the end of it that make it kind of long. So if you're not sure how to do that, just Google personalized LinkedIn URL. And then if you have a professional website, you can include that as well. Now, this information with your contact, your name and your contact information should be on every document of your application materials, and it should be formatted the same way. So cover letter, anything else that you submit, make sure you're following consistent format and content. So a couple of don'ts for your brand. We don't put addresses, our home address on in our contact information. This is a hangover from when we used to mail our resumes to a company through the United States Postal Service. So it dates you on a resume. Your classes, typically we don't include those on a resume, and most employers know what classes you have to take in your major, and so they're like, tell me something I don't know, and they tend to become frustrated when they're having to read information they're already aware of. Now, if you do have a class that you've taken that's not part of what you need to know or have to get your degree, then and it's important to your field, what you may want to do is include that class and that a project that you did in that class in an academic projects section and bullet out what you have done. Hobbies, try professional affiliations instead of hobbies. Nobody cares if I make felt hats in my spare time. Now, if you do have a hobby or a sport that you've played that has contributed to your professional development, you might want to consider developing an online professional portfolio. And if you would like to learn more about how to do this, you can read an article by our own Dr. McLean Watson. The link for that article is going to be on the reference slide at the end of this presentation. References, those have no place on the resume. The employer knows when they want references that you'll supply those. And then personal information or a photo. You don't want to include these. Laws against discrimination make this information on a resume problematic for an employer. So rather than take a risk of being accused of discrimination, they might just not review any resumes that contain this type of personal information. So that's driver's license, social security card, date of birth, familial status, gender, number of children, salary, religion, nationality don't belong on the resume. All right, so let's talk about objectives and summaries. These terms are used interchangeably, but they're really two different things, and they go under the contact information. So an objective is a statement something like this: motivated problem solver seeking a, I don't know, accounting, marketing position, utilizing my stellar communication, interpersonal problem solving, and technical skills such as Excel. Again, this is a hangover from when we used to mail our resumes to ABC Company, and Sue in HR would open our letter and say, oh, this resume goes to the marketing department. Open the next one. This resume needs to go to the accounting manager. So it helped the person in HR establish which department, which position that was. That's not the way we apply for jobs any longer. We usually upload our resume through a portal, and in that portal, at the other end, the person knows what all those applications are for. So there's really no need for an objective statement. If you are sending a resume to a company that is not advertising for a position, you're probably going to attach it to an email. So your objective statement would be in your email. So you probably never will have a need for an objective statement. Now, a summary. Should I summarize or not? There is some debate on whether or not these types of statements are going to be important on a resume. So you're going to have to make that decision based on a number of factors. ATSs will write a summary if you don't. So if you have some experience, work experience in your field, it's likely that the ATS is going to write that summary anyway. So you may not want to waste that space writing it yourself. But if you don't, then, and let's say all of your experience has been as a server at restaurants and you're majoring in accounting, well, then what you may want to, the ATS is going to report that. So what you may want to do is write a better one than the ATS will, because the ATS will say 2 years of food service industry sales experience. All right, so before we go into what is a summary and how do I write it, then let's talk about what a summary is not. A summary is not going to be statements such as this: a strategic-minded team player with a highly developed communication and teamwork skills. So this is a subjective statement. It's repetitive, and it tells the employer nothing about you and what you have done, nor what you are capable of. It's what you think about yourself. So it's a useless kind of statement to the employer. You don't want these types of statements on any of your job application documents. So how do we write one? Well, if you have no classes in your major field, you might consider something like this: student with 2 years, however many years, of educational experience. So now you're talking about your education, not your work experience, resulting in knowledge of, and here perhaps at a general topic such as project scope or maybe teamwork, and then developing, and then add some soft skills, developing communication or problem solving skills. So that's an example. Note that you do not want to copy the wording in this example word for word, because that will be plagiarism. Let's say you've got 1 or 2 classes in your major field. You might consider this: student with 1 year of marketing experience, right? Educational experience, including, and then add some of the technical skills that you have learned, some of the platforms that you've developed using in marketing, or maybe Java, something that you've learned in IT. Again, don't copy the wording. When employers see repetitive wording, they figure all of those resumes were copied from some example on the internet, and they may ditch your resume. Also, you are going to have to write an academic project section and bullet it out to prove these types of statements. If you say you can do something, prove it in your resume. All right. Then after those main statements, those first statements, you can add something if you've got some unrelated work experience. So let's say you've worked in retail sales, or you have worked as a server in restaurants. You could add to the initial statement this kind of statement. Also, however many years you've worked in that industry, and then you're going to add whatever that work experience is: retail sales, food industry customer service, landscape service, right? Experience developing, and then add those soft skills: developing teamwork, communication, problem solving, initiative, right? Add those soft skills. Let's say you've got some experience in an organization. Perhaps you had an officer position, or you were a committee member. You could add this type of statement. Also, 1 year of organization experience developing, and then add some soft skills. Now, if you were a treasurer, you could say also 1 year of organization experience as treasurer, developing accounting and budgeting skills, if they were technical skills that you learned. Now, make sure for all of these types of statements that you add bullet points in your resume to prove that you have done these things. And remember, if your resume is for a class assignment and your professor says do not include an objective or a summary, then do not include an objective or summary. You have to do what your professor says first. Let's say you don't have any classes in your industry yet, and you have no experience in that industry. So you haven't developed any technical skills in your area. Consider some online studies or certifications to develop those skills. Then you can add that to your resume. All right, what about your other platforms? You need to consider your brand in all of them, because whether you use them or not, or whether you put them on your resume or not, the employer is going to Google you and look you up. So did you get in a Twitter war with anyone? Can you clean that up? You may not use your Facebook page anymore, but is it professional? Did you get in a Facebook fight? Do you have some questionable photos in there? If so, maybe you want to make that private instead of public. Clean up those pictures. And what about your LinkedIn page? Is that portfolio completely well developed, or does it look blank like this one, in which you're sending the message, I don't really care? The banner behind your name should immediately establish you as someone interested in your field. It should not be generic in any way. And it should not have these kinds of statements: strategic, self-motivated problem solver, dedicated to driving company success. This is one of your high search engine optimization areas. So you've got to make sure you're entering words here that are actually the same words that an employer is going to enter for a search. So make sure that your LinkedIn profile is well developed, and that in your about summary, you are telling a story. You're giving the employer a glimpse of who you are, an insight that they cannot get from a resume. If you would like help in developing that LinkedIn profile, you can come see us. for individual appointments at the Business Communication Center. We are a free resource center for JSOM students. Our website is here. You can schedule an appointment by going to our website. Also, for your resume, if you have not viewed our other tutorials on format, surviving applicant tracking systems, and the ones on building bullet points, make sure that you look at those videos. And remember, we will help you develop your LinkedIn profile, your cover letter, any written document you have for a class assignment, and presentations also. Furthermore, we have a specialist for English language learners. So if you need help in developing your English skills, schedule an appointment with us. Thank you for listening, and remember to come see us.